Right, Simon. All good?
Yep.
Awesome, mate. Brilliant. Right, guys. So, for those of you who don't know, because this will be shared outside of Simon's usual community, which is obviously heavily in the sharing environment. So, we're going to be doing this little interview here now with Simon, fresh off the back of his 9 hour U sharing world record. And obviously, we're just going to go. Simon's in New Zealand, so for those of you watching in New Zealand, we're going to go delve a little bit deeper than the headline itself, shall we say? But yeah, so Simon, how are you feeling, mate? After now things are settled a little bit.
Ah, feeling pretty good actually. The body's bounced back pretty good, and it's definitely something that I guess it has sunk in a little bit, but it definitely takes time, and every time you go and speak to more people, like especially around the shows and stuff, every weekend you're traveling with the same guys, but then you go to different areas and you talk to new people and they mention it and they say congratulations and stuff, and then every time someone says that, it just brings you back and think, yeah, we actually did, we achieved, we broke the real world records. So
Yeah, we all, mate. Yeah. So for you, like obviously, you've been involved in sharing for a long time. For those who don't know, just give us a little context and kind of maybe how without giving your whole life history, I suppose, but how did you get into sharing? And yeah, and then we'll go into the finer details.
so I guess I was about 8 years old, and well, I grew up on a farm with my family. My parents have owned a farm ever since I can remember. And
Yeah.
yeah, at the age of 8, I picked up the handpiece for the first time and learned how to shear a sheep. Uh, by the age of 10, I shore my first 100. And it was only because as a family, we decided to shear our own sheep just to save a bit of a cost. And mum and dad made me do, it was either shearing, wool handling, or pressing, and I didn't like the other two, so shearing was the best option.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, and then and then mum used to travel around New Zealand doing the shows and stuff as well. So us kids, we'd get dragged along every weekend, and as we got older, it got boring sitting around doing nothing. So we decided to compete. So I think from the age of 12, I've been competing in the shows right from the novice, and I think it was 6 years ago, I broke into the open. So yeah,
Nice.
shearing's been
Nice.
in the blood for pretty much forever, really.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously you do come from quite a sporting background, don't you? Sort of family, don't you? Because obviously your sister and everything else. So it's in the blood, isn't it?
Yeah, mum
Mum.
was a top wall handler. She
Yeah.
competed at the Worlds in 2014, and she was second. My father was he's a farmer now, but he shore for a few years, and he won the intermediate Golden Shears. My sister, professional rugby player for New Zealand, and then our oldest sister, she's, I guess you could say, semi-professional, playing for the Super Rugby teams in New Zealand, the Hurricanes. So,
Yeah,
and
brilliant, mate.
also
Yeah,
she's a chartered accountant too, so she's pretty good as
switched
well.
on. Love it, love it. So Simon has to keep up. Yeah,
Pretty much, yeah. Have to do something.
love it, love it. So obviously you committed at some point to doing the 9 hour record, which is considered the Everest of all the records that are out there, I believe, from what I understand and what I read. So and obviously, having been involved in previous records at this level as well with Matt Smith back in 2016, obviously, I know what it takes and no one's attempted it since. So at what point did you go, oh, maybe I'd like to do this, to doing it? Like when did that happen for you, mate? And it might not have been the day you actually signed up and did it. What was the, yeah, when was it?
um, I guess as a kid growing up around shearing, it was always looked at as, obviously the record of all records, as we call it, in our family. And so my father shore with Rod Sutton, so he used to hold the record before Matt broke it off him, and Dad used to talk about him and what he used to do and achieved in the wool shed and stuff. And as a kid, I'd always looked up to that and thinking, "Far, that'd be pretty cool to, put your name on that list, next to
Yeah,
him." And then I don't know when there was a certain shearer, he attempted that certain record, and he was unlucky 3 times, I believe, and he was unable to beat it. So that was sort of it was like, oh, for that record is, it is going to be pretty big, and if he can't do it, then who can? And then Matt
Hmm.
Smith in 2016, he done something different. He obviously got yourself to train him, and I guess that was sort of a turning point in, like, especially the shearing industry, like to use a professional trainer and look at things differently, and then I guess so that was sort of like, oh yep, Matt's broken it. And then for myself, the turning point to actually having a go for it was after in 20 was it 23. I was lucky enough to share in a two stand record, a lamb record, and then later that season, after a couple of months after that record, I saw a personal best of 800 on ewes, which was just a shed tally. The wool weight was different to records and stuff like that. And when I saw that tally, it's sort of something just sunk in and was like, this could be achievable if we get the right sheep. And it's all a long shot, but if things do line up and the day becomes available and the opportunities there, then I'd like to have a go at it. And then so we started looking for sheep, and yeah, so that was 23, so that was 3 years ago. And then must have been about 14, 15 months ago, we were lucky enough to visit a farm that was which was T-Bar Station. They were yeah, got on board, and things started rolling from there.
It's a big part of it, that, isn't it? Like a lot of people, particularly myself, and initially when I got involved in doing this, you don't realise just how much work goes into getting those sheep right. It's just, I mean, it's absolutely crucial.
Yeah,
So having that farmer on board is massive, isn't it?
yeah. Like yeah, I wouldn't like to know how many sheds that we'd drawn at for potential record sheep.
Mm. Yeah,
Just with working with Rod and just all over the place, you look at sheep and you, oh, these could be good, but then
yeah,
things don't quite line up. They don't have enough, and certain things like that. And
yeah,
uh, once we got onto Jimmy, it was things started rolling, and working towards, or started working in our favour, I guess.
yeah. Nice. So, was there any point, did you think, oh, I'm not sure if this is going to come off? Like, not necessarily during the day, but like in the preparation for it, like in every aspect, because obviously you committing to doing it, knowing that you're physically able and capable of getting close to it, back, as you said, when you did your tally, in between that period of time, obviously there's a lot of logistical things that have to line up. Was there any point between when you thought, yeah, I want to go for it, and when it actually happened that you thought, I don't know if this is going to quite come off? Were there any, is it not so much physically about your own, necessarily your own preparation, but like anything else? Because that does happen, doesn't
Uh,
it?
well, yeah. So after that season that I saw that tally, like I'd obviously trained with yourself for that record, and then we finished main share, and then that tally was at the end of main share. So I was, probably the fittest I'd been ever really for sheep shearing. So once I come off that, went back, shearing for just normally again. It was the fitness had sort of dulled down and that, and then when I got into or eventually when we found the sheep at Tipar, it was we went up and crutched them in the winter time, and they weren't looking too flash. They were quite skinny, and like the season was quite hard. They had not a lot of grass that we sort of was hoping for, but and at the time I was looking at them, and a few people that were in our group, they were looking at them and not questioning what we were doing, but just definitely like, are these the sheep that you want to have a go on?
Yeah, yeah,
And I sort
yeah.
of like, I just sort of at the same time I was questioning it, but then I had to back myself and like, nah, these are definitely better sheep, because we'd shown there the year before. I was like, no, these definitely better sheep than what they look like now. And
They'll be all right on the day. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So then we let the season go on, and they picked up, and their body condition was coming right. Um,
yeah.
as the seasons went on, they started looking pretty good. But
Good.
then closer to the day, the weather wasn't looking too flash. So all early December, we'd sort of had like scattered showers, and we'd have like a wet couple of days, and then we'd have some fine spells again, which was it's good farming weather, but not real good for full wool ewes.
Yeah,
The wool starts tightening up around the neck, and they go yellow on the backs, and
yeah.
And as Christmas come, we got quite a bit of rain around Christmas, and it was not looking flash leading into the record. And even
Yeah.
I think every day, pretty much from the New Year, apart from the fourth, it was raining. So we had to
Mm.
change a few things with the
Yeah.
way when we crutch sheep and all that kind of stuff leading up to the day. So
And like you say, these are all good. These are all examples of like how the sheep's physical condition and the weather, examples of things that you don't necessarily, if you weren't involved in the sport, you wouldn't necessarily know, but how they can really heavily influence what goes on, and it can be like very, very close to the day. So yeah,
yeah,
interesting.
and it's things that we can't really control. So
Yeah, we can only
we
do
can
so
do
much.
everything
Yeah,
to our bodies. We can do everything to our bodies and control that side of it, but Mother
yeah.
Nature and sheep is just,
Another thing.
it is what
Yeah.
it is.
Hey, so on the physical side of things, then, so that can sort of like if we've talked a little bit about the sheep there for yourself, then. And if, obviously, we talk about your physical preparation. What was there any point during it, like, obviously, was there anything that you particularly found challenging? Like, obviously, the preparation to get in the shape you needed to be in. I mean, obviously, yeah, it comes with its own. Everyone understands it's going to be tough to be at that level. Be the best in the world in any sport. You got to be at a serious level. So, what was any particular challenges you found during the preparation?
Um, the biggest challenge I found was because I have to travel for work. The biggest the biggest struggle was finding gyms and areas that we were going to work at, and then working with yourself and the amount of times that the training plan changed.
Mm,
Obviously, at the start when we first got chatting about this, I made an outline of where I was heading and what I was up to and where I was and what gym access I had. That was probably the most challenging part, was keeping everything on track. So I was still
mm,
able to do all the workouts, but then I think when I signed up with you, I was down south sharing for Peter Lyons in Central Otago, and then within a week I was back in Wanganui at home working on the farm for my dad. Like, we were putting in our summer crops, so I was driving the tractor for 10 days. Not even doing any shearing. So
yeah,
had to find the gym. I was lucky I got a gym at home, but
yeah,
and yeah, then had to go, was up north shearing early ewes up Northland, and then started with Rod back in like late November. So it was just trying to adjust. Wherever I went, had to try find a gym. Keep the plan
yeah.
going, and obviously working with you too.
And that's it, isn't it?
Something
It's
change,
that's the
yeah.
thing is it's not perfect. I think a lot of people think, oh, you've got to set yourself up in this perfect environment. And even if you manage to do that, like it's rarely going to take that linear path, is it? And you have to be able to adapt and figure out. But I think the people that ultimately are successful are the ones that find a way to do it, and that's not just sharing, is it? That's in every
Oh,
asset of life.
yeah.
If you
But
want it, you
definitely,
find a way.
yeah. But I'd have to say, the last month, um, when I was sharing for Rod, leading into the record, we were set up in Danny Verk. Um, the gym was only 5 minutes down the road, and I definitely got a good routine leading into the record, apart from around Christmas and that with all our stat days and stuff. But like, definitely that solid month before the record, I was able to get consistent days in the gym.
Mm.
My recovery after work was definitely was better because we had a
Covered.
system. Myself and my partner were able to just keep things moving, and everything was the
Mm.
same. That month, so that definitely helped. Um,
Yeah.
Made
So
things go a
what
lot.
out of all of that then, so obviously was there one element of your physical preparation that you felt was really, really useful on the day? Like, or was it a combination of everything that we did? But was there anything that you thought, oh, do you know what? On reflection, I'm really glad I did this.
Um, I haven't really thought of it like that, but I know with working for Rod, we weren't doing any 9 hour days. I think I might have done three that whole main share before the record. So that was definitely one thing I had in my mind. It's going to be a challenge. But then I was going to the gym before work. So we were meeting at like 5:30. So I'd get up at like 3:15, go to the gym, come back, have a shower, have my breakfast, pack all my stuff, and then go to work at 5:30. So I felt, even though that wasn't something physical, but it was definitely something of being able to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, which we had to do for the record anyway, because with the plan of eating everything, like getting your body to eat something before the day started. So um, it was, yeah, but then yeah, I don't know, just the general plan of how we work things was it made my body feel good anyway.
Yeah, yeah, good, good. So let's talk a little bit about perhaps the technical side of shearing then. So for those who don't know, obviously there's a pattern that you try to aim for on each sheep, is there not? And sometimes if the sheep moves, you've got to change the pattern. If the sheep got more wool in some areas, you've got to change it. So I'm not going to talk about that because that's your job. Um, but did you change anything about like, did you was there, did you obviously had a plan? Is there, how did that go? Obviously temperatures
Um,
and that sort of stuff affect that.
Definitely. I thought I had a pretty good pattern when I short my 800, and then working with Rod, um, we sort of tweaked things when I started working for him. So that would have been about 2 years out from the record. Um, just little blows. He's quite good on. His big thing is short return blows. So your hand piece is in the wall the whole time. The longer you spend coming back to start a new blow, that's less time shearing the sheep. So
Okay.
there's just a key part around the undermine and the long blow, whereas I changed a couple of things for my preparation. And yeah, I probably spent 2 years trying to shear a sheep, every sheep exactly the same. Obviously, not every sheep's the same. And like you said, when they kick out and there's some have got more wool, so you have to adjust things. But if you try and keep that basic pattern the same every time, when you do get to a mob of sheep that, essentially for the record, were drafted over thousands of sheep to then get them hopefully the same,
Mm.
that everything sort of lines up. And on the day, um, I didn't really have to change anything. Um,
That's good.
Everything was still like obviously yeah, with every sheep trying to kick and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Little things had to change, but as a whole, we were able to keep the same pattern throughout the whole day, which was
Nice.
pretty good.
Did you have any like mental cues that you kind of said to yourself during the record? Like, because I'm sure we've all got them when we compete. We have certain things we like to remind ourselves that are important. Do you have anything like that you said to yourself during the record, like to kind of keep yourself thinking about what was needed to be done?
Um, Probably not myself, but I like the guys around me. They had
Mm.
little words that they could say that triggered stuff for me.
Yeah, yeah,
And it was just like, well, the first one was the undermine, getting that those two shots over the backbone. So it's just getting nice and deep, and then
yeah,
getting my foot around, dragging the sheep around, so getting my left foot forward to then pull it around. Um, and then on the what was another one? On the first shoulder, just same thing, get nice and deep, and it was just so we could set up for the last side. We had bugger all wool, so that was pretty
yeah.
much the key ones with those two parts. Yeah.
Nice, mate. Nice. And then obviously, just in terms of like, was there anything during the day? I'm obviously aware of this because we just chatted before, didn't we, about this? And we chatted it like sort of soon after the record. Anything that sort of went on during the day that, not necessarily everybody was seeing, but had a fairly major impact on what was going on?
Yeah, or definitely the second run, which quite a few people have commented on it. They were like, "What happened that run?" Because they could tell things weren't quite right. My body shape changed. My shearing had fallen off a bit. The pace had slowed down, and my face went all red, and I was just sweating and that. And yeah, a few people have said, but so yeah, in the second run, the air conditioning unit we were using, the drip tray filled up, and essentially it just turned itself on to a warm blower. And when I realised, I stood up, changed my cutter, and the air that was being blown in my face was warm, and I told David, and he sort of looked at me like, oh, that's a bit strange. And then he clicked, and he got someone to go and check it. And when they checked it, I think it was 32 degrees. That's the temperature of the air that was being blown on me for at least 20 minutes to half an hour. And then he reckons when he emptied the drip tray, it went up to 33, and then he thought, oh no, I've broken this air conditioning unit. And then within another 30 seconds, it started plummeting back down to
Mm.
whatever it was set at again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It
Okay,
was
so that
like
was the
it was like instant relief once it started cooling down again. I could just feel the cool air. come back over the body, and I was, oh, this is we're away again.
This is where I need to be. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, well, not obviously, but for those who are aware that the 9 hours is broken down into sort of a 2 hour and then a sort of 1 and 3/4 hour, isn't it? How for you, mate? How did you break it down outside of obviously the obvious runs? I mean, they do give you that, but yeah, How did you compartmentalize the day, mate?
Um, so that first run is like you get 2 hours, and it is obviously the longer run of the five. So you've definitely got to make those minutes, seconds count to get your extras, and obviously that's your freshest part. Is your first thing in the morning. You're at your freshest. So
Mm.
that was definitely something we looked at, was targeting that first run and trying to really get some spares, because obviously
Yeah,
as the day goes on, as every shearer knows, that it does get harder, and by any challenges, either the sheep or your body starting to plummet or just certain things. So that was definitely a key one. And but then we all, like with the timing system we use, we break it down to every 15 minutes. Obviously, yeah, the run's broken into every 15 minutes, as most shearers know. But then we broke it down into 5 minutes. So every 5 minutes we had to be hitting. My target for the day was seven sheep every 5 minutes, um, and then you can break that 5 minutes down into 2.5 minutes, and then you break that down into a minute and a quarter. Um,
yeah,
so there were certain parts on sheep, or every minute and a quarter, I knew exactly where I needed to be,
yeah.
and that was Rod's job, was to tell me those times, and we sort of knew if I was behind or in front. Pretty much,
Mm.
yeah, every minute and a quarter to 2.5 to 5 minutes, and then
Breaking it
every
down.
35 minutes that was your quarter. So,
It's really cliche, isn't it? But like a good example of how it needs to be done. We watch at the minute we watch certain things like the Winter Olympics, and you watch the level of detail that those guys are obviously going to achieve what they do. But in order to achieve something big, you've got to kind of reverse engineer the process and break it all right down, haven't you? So then on the day, you've got these small manageable targets that you can attain and either understand whether you're on target or you're not. And
yeah,
if you're not, obviously you do something, try and do something about it. But yeah, it's like I said, yeah, cliche, but you gotta break it down into manageable parts, haven't you?
yeah, and that was another thing that like Rod and I talked about with the days leading in. So we obviously had a goal of what it would have been awesome to achieve, which it was pretty much 21 a quarter, which was an easy number to keep track of. So that's every seven sheep every 5 minutes. But then we
Mhm.
also broke it down to the bare minimum. So we knew we only needed 13, 13 21s, if that makes sense. So of those quarter of an hours, we only need, I think there's 36 15-minute splits in a 9 hour day. And of
Yeah.
those 36, we only needed 13 of them to be 21 sheep to break the record by one. So that
Okay.
was, so we'd broken it down into the worst possible case, we beat it by one, and then the best case scenario, we have an awesome day and things are perfect,
Yep.
and this is what the target could be, but this
Yep.
is obviously the worst case scenario, and this is
Gonna
the
try and aim
minimum
for.
we need to break the record. So
Yeah.
you know we had the plan on both sides, and it
Nice, mate.
ended up being just the one sheep. So
Yeah.
it was kind of
Yeah. But
good idea that we've done that side of it.
yeah. No, exactly, mate. Cool. So, I suppose another aspect of it for people to understand and maybe get an insight into is the fuel in the hydration. Um, yeah, listen, from your perspective, how important is that? And yeah, how did you approach that?
Oh, this is massive. I learnt a lot off the first record.
Mm.
Um, not not knowing my body enough to know what sort of foods that I like under pressure, and under the heat of just the normal work days, or not normal work day, but under stress of the record.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it was this time around. I definitely put a lot more effort into eating clean, leading up to the record. Like with your plan, there's a lot of different types of food you can eat. It's not all just a strict diet of just chicken, rice, and stuff like that. You can actually use a huge variety of food, and it was it was quite good. I put a lot of emphasis into that, and I felt a lot fresher through work, and then yeah, leading into the day, I felt clean and energized,
Yeah,
and
because
yeah,
from memory, we basically started that process the day you contacted me, didn't we? It was sort of like, right, Simon, keep a food diary.
yeah,
Let me just see what you're doing, and then we'll just start refining it.
yeah. And I know like that was something I knew I had to work on leading into the record, and then so that's something we talked about, straight away. And there was yeah, you said to take that food diary, and we definitely had to change a lot of things from the first food diary I sent you, and then the next one was okay, that's good, but not good enough, and then the last one we sent, it was yes, it was spot on, and that was that month leading in, and it was yeah, it was a good thing knowing that you ticked it off and said that's a good meal plan. So I was I know my body's handling this, working day in day out. So it was
Yeah,
I had the
familiar.
confidence of that food that it was going to be good on the day.
Yeah, we always say like don't try anything new on race day.
Yeah,
So same thing applies. Just right way back at the start. Right, let's just see what works. You know, I suppose the beauty of it, you could look at it two ways, but the beauty of it is that you do get to train and work in a similar way to what you're going to compete. So you can test that out under stress. Even if it's just for 1 or 2 hours during the day, you can go right. I'm going to try this electrolyte drink, and I'm going to try this strategy over over X many minutes and how many, and you can see how it works. So that's good.
yeah,
Um,
and even
Electrolytes. Go on, no, go on.
while yeah, just going on to the drinking side of it with the
Yeah,
hydration, how we'd made the plan at the start that pretty much from the day we started, working together every seven, when I'm sharing every 7.5 minutes, we, remember to drink. And I felt that was definitely something my body it was used to it on the day that every 7.5 minutes it was getting fluid put into it. So it wasn't a shock that, oof, what are you doing? We normally only drink every 15 minutes, and now you're trying
yeah,
to put extra fluid down. So whereas that was a big conscious thing that I was having to do at work, and it felt oh, it felt like I was wasting time because not every shed's perfect. You've got space to have water bottles
yeah,
and that. So I was half that every 7.5 minutes I'm looking for my water bottle and stuff
yeah.
like that. So it was frustrating, but I knew it was just like you just have to do this because it's going to pay off. So
Mm,
yeah,
yeah. And the problem is when you can't catch that up. So like from
yeah,
my perspective, like when you get into a situation where you perhaps didn't drink every 7.5 hours for 2 hours, suddenly that's 50% less hydration than you probably could or should have had. And then it's not then you feel it, it's like 7, 8 hours later, and then you're suddenly like, oh man, my performance is dropping off massively. Why is that? Well, because of the solution that you haven't had, you haven't had enough carbs during the run, you haven't had enough electrolytes. And funnily enough, things start to unravel a little bit if and you've got to give yourself every chance at that hardest part of the day. So no, good. What's just in terms of how you felt, Simon? Obviously, we've talked about physical preparation, we've talked about your shearing pattern, we've talked about your hydration, your nutrition, that sort of stuff. Like emotionally, how did you feel during the day, mate? Like how, did you remain fairly calm all day? Did it get obviously I appreciate without the air conditioning, if that maybe changed things a little bit, but like yeah, how would you describe your mental state from hour one to hour nine?
um, I'll probably start a little bit earlier than that. So when
Oh, cool.
was it the day before I left home to travel up to the shed, which was an hour and a half drive, and I felt sick. I felt like I was leaving home to head up there, so I was nervous that I was forgetting something. I was nervous about, what if I don't get it? There's hundreds of people, banking on this, and I felt real sick driving up to the shed. And but then when we got to the shed, I stepped out of the ute. I think I can't remember. One of my mates was, came over and said g'day, and I seen everything happening, and I just felt everything just relax. And I thought, oh, okay, this is happening. It's good. Everything's happening good, and everything's ticking along, and things are being done. I felt good, and then so that was the day before. Oh, yeah, the day before, and then the morning of. coming to the woolshed. Um, Turned up, felt good. Done my normal routine, which I would normally do on a normal 9 hour day. So normally, I think it was about 4:15. We turned up to the shed, strapped on my fingers. Just one of the boys came over, had a yarn to him, and but as the standing in front of the door on 5 to 5, I felt good. I felt comfortable. I felt like I prepped myself. Like I felt ready, even though it was the biggest day that I'm going to attempt. But I felt comfortable. I felt like I'd put in the work, and my body was ready to have a crack at it. Um, and then so we started the first run. Sure, I had two extra sheep, so I was sure 166, and I walked off there. Leading into an hour break, I thought, oh, yep, this is good. The
Yeah.
day's It's on a good start with gave ourselves the best chance, and I felt good. I felt comfortable. I didn't like I was still like I was sharing within myself, like I wasn't exhausted or anything. So I was like, oh yep, the plan's working. The food I put in the days before and the hydration's working. So that was good. And then the second run was, I thought, oh no, like it because it happened pretty much straight away. Like we'd only just gotten into the run, and it was just like my face just started like just getting real hot. My legs started like cramping up. My toes started curling over. My hand, like I was trying to catch sheep like this, and like my fingers were all tucked in. And I was thinking, no way, this is like first thing in the morning. How can it be this hot already? Um, like I was thinking to myself, like I can't carry on. Like if it stays like this, I'm going to have to stop. And that was definitely a big mental battle. And then once we sorted out the air conditioning unit, I thought like I could breathe again, and that was definitely it. Definitely put like a cap on things. Like every time I try and exert energy to try and catch sheep, it was the cramp would start like coming, like start happening again. That was something that like yeah, it was definitely hindered the rest of the day, but we managed to pull through. Like so, we
Yeah.
upped the sodium intake, we upped the magnesium, not too much, but definitely the sodium. We just started putting a bit more into it, and I started drinking. Like the fluid levels got a little bit more, um, just to try and
Compensate for that.
counteract what the
Yeah.
damage had already been done.
Yeah.
Uh, so that was like we got to the end of the run, and I was pretty tired, but I knew that okay, we'll just try and get through the next run and get to lunch because that was another hour break. And that third run, I felt good. We had a pretty decent run. I think I saw 141. I think it was 140. No, that's what it was, 140. And I thought, okay, good, leading into lunch. And I remember lying on the bed getting a massage, and I was talking to my sister, and I said to her, I said, oh, do we have any, how many spare sheep do we got? Because I knew I had two leading into the first run. And she's like, no, you don't have any. You're actually down, you're down by one. And I thought, oh no, what have I done? But this is going to be a big afternoon. Um, this is yeah, what have I? Yeah, that was the first thing that came to my head was, oh, this is going to be tough. But then I thought, no, it's going to be good. We'll have a good next run. Start like instead of thinking about the end goal, brought it straight back to okay, we'll just focus on the next run.
Mm.
We put in a plan with. I started taking a bit of caffeine just before we went out, and I knew okay, this will get me going. And yeah, had a real good run, sure 144. So once I knew that, I was like, ah, sweet, we're back on target again.
Yeah.
It's not a huge last run, like even though it's still had to share 141 to beat it, but it was the target was very achievable at that point. Like I knew
Given that you've
with
done
the plan we
144 the hour before, the run before, yeah.
yeah, with the plan that we'd sort of had at afternoon smoke over, yeah, it definitely and made it achievable. And yeah, getting to that end of that last run was a relief.
Yeah, that's it, right? So is the at the end of it all, you know, immediately was that it? Was that it? Was it just a sheer sense of relief at the end of the day, or were there any other emotions about it too?
um, yeah, it was a relief that it was over, like that I'd achieved a goal that essentially I'd had since I was a little kid. But it was or a dream as such. It wasn't really a goal as a
Yeah,
kid. It was a dream.
Yeah.
So there was that relief. It was a relief that far out, all these people have helped me for, well, some of them have been, in my corner for the last couple of years, to finally do something, to achieve that goal for them and just, the immediate people that were helping at the pen. And it was a relief, that we'd done something for them. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was, and then the excitement, the boys got around me and that, and it was, that excitement. So there was, yeah, the emotions were just going through the roof, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was all over
Brilliant.
the show.
Brilliant, mate. Yeah, good. Would you, on that then, do you think you've sort of learned anything about yourself as part of the process? Anything that you didn't necessarily know, or or
Um,
something that you think you could instill and help other people with?
Definitely, from what I put my body through the first time for the first record, that was, I put it to its very limits, and I was could barely walk, couldn't talk. I could barely, yeah, barely talk. I could barely breathe.
Mm,
So I knew then I could push myself, but then I knew that that was not the right way to do things. There was a better way, and then this time I knew that by sticking to the hydration plan, sticking to the nutrition plan, that I can do that. Like I actually put a lot of focus on, and it was just sticking to a plan. Really, that was something big that I picked up on myself. That this is the plan. This is what we have to do. And if we want to achieve the goal and make it easier on my body, I just have to make those sacrifices, and that all come back to the training plans. It was, when we were bouncing around all over the place, it was like, okay, go find the gym, go find the hours, you know, work out the gym plan with yourself, and then make it work. And
find a
that
way.
was something big that I can actually do it. That was something
Yeah.
that I learned personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've in my experience of obviously competing and working with other people and watching, and being involved with some other, extremely good athletes, the ones that succeed and the people that succeed, no matter the level of, are just the ones that find a way. They make it happen. And I often tell myself that, like, if I'm busy or if I'm just like find a way. There's a way. You just need to, if you get home late, but you've still got some stuff, you just got to find a way.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what makes people successful or not, I think. So, yeah, awesome, mate. Is there anything, Simon? I appreciate it's getting a little bit late for you now, and you want to go to bed probably. Is there anything you would like to add, mate? Obviously, because obviously I've asked quite a few questions here, but is there anything you'd like to add, mate? Is there anything I've missed?
Um. Oh, I think, well, just some key things that went through on the day. Like I'm just looking at like my weight. I was just looking at the table that we'd done, that you'd sent through. So we'd filled it out on the day, and I'll just quickly read it out. So at 4:45 in the morning, my weight was 83.1, and my heart rate was sitting at 104. Um, and then at 20 to 8, so the morning smoko, breakfast time, my weight was 81.9, and my heart rate was down to 78, which reflects, I was feeling comfortable. Things were, had gone pretty smooth, and I felt good.
Yeah,
Um, at morning smoko, I was still 81.9 kilos, and my heart rate was sitting at 102, and that was, I put down to the heat
yeah,
that we'd been
yeah.
through.
After that, yeah,
And then lunchtime, 81.9 again, and same 102. Um, yeah, so we obviously, with the short break, the short quarter, half an hour break, we hadn't really,
yeah,
the body hadn't had a lot of time to recover, and sort of gone through the same thing and come out the same, same weight, same heart rate.
yeah,
And then afternoon smoko came back in at 81 kilos, and then my heart rate was down to 91. So we just put out a big run, but I felt good again. So I felt comfortable. So everything was relaxed, and
yeah.
uh, yeah, that just from what I feel to what the heart rate shows, it sort of it was good.
The
And then
data,
20 minutes after we finished, so 20 past 5, I weighed myself again, 81.7, and I was 87. My heart rate was at 87. So just
amazing.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was, so obviously I think, yeah, the start weight to finish weight was like 1.4 kilos, but then the 83 was sort of a added weight. Like I think 2 days before, I think I was barely 82 kilos.
Yeah.
Just and we'd put a lot of extra carbs, extra electrolytes those couple of days. So would that 81, 83 was probably a water weight essentially.
Yeah, sort of slightly artificially inflated as a result of the following the nutritional protocol we put in place. I think it's probably
Yeah,
fair to say. Good.
yeah, and then pretty much the key, um, like the amount of liquid we had over the day was, I think it was just over 16 liters from
Mm.
3:15 when I woke up to when we'd finished. Oh, that includes the electrolytes I drank after. It was about 5:30 that we
Yeah,
stopped measuring the electrolytes
cracking.
I'd taken in. So it was just over 16 liters of fluid
Yeah,
throughout the day.
in just over 13 hours or 14 hours of being awake, basically. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So averaging out without being a real maths geek, probably just over a litre an hour over the over that period of time.
yeah. Including that was including break time, as
Yeah,
well as shedding time. Yeah,
yeah. Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, that's a really interesting insight, and obviously something that you and I are quite familiar with, but maybe others wouldn't necessarily understand. I mean, just to have those numbers and that weight is something that I'm massive on tracking during big days like that,
yeah,
because it's as if you don't know, but as little as 2% reduction in body weight can affect performance by 10%. You start going beyond that, you're looking at cognitive. You're going to make mistakes, and with a shearing handpiece in your hand and a live sheep, you don't want to be making mistakes um, at all. So yeah, mate, brilliant, really interesting. Um, yeah, is there anything else, mate, that
Oh,
because those two things are
no,
brilliant.
yeah, not really. That was something we never did for the first record. Like I never kept. Like I knew I'd lost. I think when I weighed myself for the first record, I was 85 kilos, and when I finished, I was 80 kilos. So I'd
Okay.
lost 5 kilos. So that was, I knew straight away, from talking to you and like just my body, that was not good enough. But I never kept a hydration, um, what we'd taken exactly, the amount of literage we had over the day, but just from
Mm.
what my body was like after we finished, I knew that was not good enough.
Yeah,
So that's why this time I put a lot more emphasis onto the hydration and the nutrition, just knowing that it was going to make a difference.
yeah. Shoot, well, yeah, it's yeah. At that point there, it's make or break, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Mate, yeah, I just want to thank you for your efforts. During the time that we worked together, and obviously in between the times that we worked together, obviously we've still stayed in touch, which has been nice. And yeah, so thank you for that, and obviously to your team as well. I think it'd be nice for probably both of us to thank them, and because as you said, like you do it, you finish it, you think, crikey, thank God, all these people's efforts have been, you know, made
rewarded.
worthwhile, and all they would win or lose, I'm sure they'd still support you because you'd given it your all. But yeah, and I think to reinforce the standard that this sets again, just like that record was obviously really tough for someone as talented and as hardworking as you to beat it by one, which is obviously ultimately what you needed to do. Just shows how hard it is, and it's been stood there for 10 years since Matt did it, and I think it was stood there for a wee while, wasn't it,
Yeah, it would
before
have
that
been
when Rod did it.
probably 8 to 10 years
Yeah.
before from Rod to Matt. So
So it's been broken twice in 20 years, shall we say?
yeah, and then I think when I looked at it in 30 years, it's only gone. Well, I think David Fagan might have been the first one to share 700, and he pushed it to 701, and that was in 1997.
Yeah,
So
so
in
it goes
30 years,
30
it's only
years.
gone 32 sheep. So
Yeah, yeah. And you think about like some of the advancements people have made, in technology and in even like the areas that you and I would talk about, your hydration, your sleep, your nutrition, your exercise, the way you manage your lifestyle. You think about some of the improvements we've made there, just goes to show actually, wow, like those people were achieving amazing things.
yeah, they put a lot out. Just probably within with the things that we have now, they didn't have back then. But just
Yeah,
to goes to show over 30 years, it's only gone 32 sheep, which is nothing really.
Yeah. You break that down as like, if you were to look at the average time per sheep, it would be, milliseconds, wouldn't it, per sheep? Mad, isn't it?
Yeah, I think 720 is 20 a quarter, so that's was it two sevens and a six every 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Mad, isn't it? Brilliant, mate. Cool. I'll let you go to bed, mate, I think.
yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate your time and sharing this. And I think what's lovely about this sort of thing as well is it's obviously this is going to go out to the non-shearing community, which they'll get to understand a bit more about the level of detail that goes into it. But not just that, like shearers who are watching this, who are aspirational, who want to achieve good things, um, they can gain some real insight into how it's done at the top level. So thank you.
No worries.
Top man. Right. Let's